Guys, ready for a strong finish of the day? Fantastic. Well, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Tamian Dicer. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Think3D. Anyone heard of Think3D before? Nobody? A few of you in the audience? Think3D, we're a company out of Sioux Falls. We focus on leadership development and organizational culture consulting. And so I'm excited to talk to you guys about navigating successfully your first few years of your career. Show of hands, how many of you in the room, I know there's a few folks that were in here earlier, but how many folks in the room want to be successful in life? Everybody should want that, right? Let's talk about, again, obviously your career matters tremendously in that. How many of you in the room, you would say that your parents love their job? How many feel like their parents love their job? Half or so, less than half or so, kind of, sort of. It's okay. It pays the bills. Well, a statistic I gave the group earlier that I want to give to you guys if you didn't hear it because it's just that important. When you talk about work and the job that you do, the average individual spends somewhere between 50 and 75% of their waking hours, so the time that you're actually awake, 50 to 75% of your waking hours going to work, at work, getting ready for work, decompressing from work, etc. So the majority of the time throughout your adult years, you spend around work some way, shape, or form. Very exciting stuff. Secondarily to that, if you start working at age 18, work to the current retirement age of 67, and live to the national expectancy of 78, if you do the math on that, that's over 80% of your adult years working. And so if you take something that takes up the majority of your time, your career, right, 50 to 75% of your hours is around work, it should really elevate just how important your job is, the environment, the culture is, those type of things. And so in our business, that's what we aspire to do. And so I want to give you guys a little bit of my journey. I'm from here in Sioux Falls. Went to Roosevelt, actually got my MBA here at USF. Any USF folks in the room? Yeah. So I got my MBA here from USF as well, so I'm a cougar in that manner. When I left high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. How many folks don't know what they want to do for a long-term career? Right? Not everyone has to know, right? In today's day and age, we push back against this because that's a lot of pressure, right? Again, go back to if you're going to work for probably 45 to upward of 50 years, that's a lot of responsibility to say, hey, 18, 19, 22-year-old, what do you want to do for the next 50 years? That's a big, big question. And so in that, when I left, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I took a year off after high school, ended up getting a double associate's degree. And at that time, that was enough school for me, right? At that time, I said, I'm not sure what I was going to do, so I was looking for a career. Luckily for me, I stumbled upon a career in call centers or finance. I had a really successful career doing credit card collections and got addicted to winning free trips. I got to go to places like Jamaica and Mexico and the Virgin Islands and all these great places that really opened my eyes to experiences, which I'll talk a little bit about later. But in that, I said, okay, I probably should go back to school, and went back and got my bachelor's degree in business management. Again, that was just enough time for me. I'm not a huge school person. I know how important it is, but I only could take it in about 2-year increments for me personally. Kept going, kept climbing a ladder, so on and so forth, and then I decided to come back and get my MBA. Now, along that journey, again, there's a lot of pressure to say, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? There's a book one of my favorite books of all time, is by a gentleman by the name of Napoleon Hill. He wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, this was early 1900s. There was a gentleman by the name of Andrew Carnegie. If you look back in history, he was one of the most successful men of the time. And he commissioned Napoleon Hill to say, I know there's a secret to success, and I obviously am around a whole lot of successful people, and there's something to this. Let me unpack this, and let's figure out what is the secret to success. I know there's something there, but I challenge you to think through this and see what the secret is. I'm not going to pay you to do this commission, but I'm going to give you access to the greatest minds of the times, your Henry Fords, your Edisons, all these individuals. He had access to unpack what was success. And this was about a 25-year study. 25 years, he studied about the lives of about 500 individuals. And so you want to talk about a good data sample, 500 individuals, and unpacked what is success to you. What are those key factors? And he came up with 13 principles. But the one thing I want to give you guys that was really eye-opening for me in that was the average age that the individuals who were at this level of mega success, and most of this was considered financially at the time, the average age when they got into the career that made them a success on that level, what age would you guesstimate that was? Throw it at me. Throw an age out here. 30, not quite, a little bit higher. 58, not that high. Mid-40s, right? So again, mid-40s was the average age where they started the career that made them a success. So take Henry Ford, everyone knows who he is. We got Ford Explorers out there, etc. Henry Ford didn't get into that business that made him that level of success until his mid-40s. So the point of that is, as you guys think about these things, hopefully you start off and release some of the pressure. You don't have to figure things out in your 20s, because as you go through your 20s, it should be an area of curiosity, right? Is this the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life? And so people are figuring that out. And then usually in your 30s, you start to kind of dwindle it down, figure out what are those attributes, what are those things that I care the most about in my career. And then once you get into your 40s, which I'm currently at the seasoned age of 42, you start to really figure it out. Now I know exactly where I'm going, exactly what I want to do, and I'm able to sprint towards that. And so as you guys think about the pathway before you, a lot of us, when you ask yourself, what do you want to do, where does that come from? How many one of you, show of hands, how many of you want to jump into a career that your parents came from? Anybody in the room? A few of you out there. That was my story. My dad actually owned a construction company. And so when I was growing up, I started working for him at age 13 in the summers, and I thought I was going to take over the family business. And so construction, I thought that was going to be my career. And then he didn't quite make it until I was 18. And so I jumped out at 18, got into kind of construction world. Thankfully, it wasn't fun at the time, but I got burned with hot tar. Anyone been burned by hot tar? Nobody? Not a fun experience. So I had these third-degree burns across my stomach and my arms from what they call a kettle. And in that moment, it made me rethink my whole career. Maybe you say, okay, what is the things that's going to make me the happiest in this space? Because when you think about success, is happiness and success related? Should be, right? For most people, again, if we had a panel up here earlier, and one of the gals, I asked her, if I were to give you $1 billion on your lawn, would you want it? Would you guys want $1 billion on your lawn? Yes, of course you would, right? What if I gave you $1 billion on your lawn, but here's the caveat, you couldn't spend it, nor could anyone else you know. Would you still want it? No, it's 2 tons of paper just sitting on your lawn. The point being is, it's not about the money, it's what the money does. And so many people, as you're choosing your careers, if you go back to the end of your life, the end of your career, it's all about satisfaction and happiness and what really makes up success. And so as you guys are navigating these first few years of your career, making sure you're taking time to really think through this. Now, how many of you, let me do a quick poll in the room. How many of you, your parents have had 4 or less jobs? 4 jobs or less. How many have 4 or less jobs? Okay, about half the room, less than 4 jobs. How many of you think in your lifetime you're going to have less than 4 jobs? Show of hands. A few less. In today's day and age, we're seeing that current studies show that the average person is going to change jobs or change careers up to 12 times. 12 different times you're going to change a job. Now think about that in terms of relationships, right? Relationships are very important in this space. If you think about your best friend, what would happen in your relationship if you changed best friends every 4 years? Makes it much tougher on life because you don't have that relationship. How long does it take to build a friendship? Takes maybe 6 months to a year, right? You spend time around an individual. And as you think about these things, you think about the career, it's in today's day and age, you've all heard the grass is green on the other side. Most people have heard that. The reality is as you navigate your course forward, the grass is greener where you water it. The grass is greener where you water it. And so I want to give you guys a couple things to think about, because by the numbers, if you're going to change jobs upward to 12 times, and if you're just searching for the right environment and hoping that this job makes you happy, if you're waiting for that job to make you happy, you're going to be waiting a long time, and you're going to find yourself in the same boat as a lot of individuals who find themselves that I didn't quite reach my dreams, or I'm not living the life that I desired, because it's not about just what the job can give you, it's what are you bringing to the job. And so I want to give you guys 3 things to kind of take with you. 3 portable skills that will serve you no matter what you do for a career. I don't care if you're a doctor, if you're a veterinarian, if you're a librarian, if you're a teacher, whatever career that you choose, these are 3 skills that can serve you and will serve you every step along the way if you develop them. The first one is leadership. Now, traditionally, when people hear leadership, they often associate leaders with managers. And there's a huge, huge difference between a leader and a manager. Now, for me personally, I found this out the hard way. When I first got my first leadership or management role, I had no real training for it by my organization that had been at it for quite some time. I found out on a Friday that I was going to, I got the position, and I'm going to start Monday. So I show up Monday, I get about an hour and a half of training on how to run the systems, and congratulations, here's 15 human beings that somehow I'm supposed to lead and guide and motivate without any training to how to do so. And so I learned very quickly there's a huge difference between a manager is just managing people, managing processes, managing things, and a leader. A leader is influence, right? My favorite author is a gentleman by the name of John C. Maxwell. He's a leadership guru in this space, and he defines leadership as influence. So every single person here, every single person online, every one of you has the ability to influence somebody else. Therefore, you have the potential to be a leader. It's not about a position. It's not about a title. It's about influence. And so how do you start to grow your influence? So I want to do a quick exercise. For those of you in the room, I want you to partner up with somebody. You're going to have some quick conversations. You can go in groups of 2 or 3. Online, I know you guys are out there and you're not in groups, but just write these things down. So we're going to take 3 quick minutes. What I want you to do as you navigate this, think about somebody that you would consider to be a great leader. It could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be a famous person, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whoever it is. Who is somebody that you would consider to be a great leader? So that's step 1. And then step 2, what characteristic traits, what are the things about that person that makes you think that they are a great leader? Now, if there's anyone sitting kind of by themselves, again, don't make them feel left out. Make sure you gather around somebody. But take 3 minutes, have some conversation. Who is somebody you would consider to be a great leader? And what are the skill sets that they possess that make them a great leader? 3 minutes, have some conversation, and go. Sixty seconds. 60 seconds. All right, let's bring it back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, shout a few of these characteristic traits at me. What are some of the things that make these people great leaders? What was that? Kevin Hart. What makes him a great leader? Smart. Okay, smart makes you a great leader. What else? In the back. They want what? They want others to be successful, caring about other people. Give me a couple more. Good speaking skills. That's an important thing for a lot of leaders. One more. Confident. In the back, I heard you up there. Always trying to learn things. Now, here's what I want you to take away about this, about leadership skills and characteristics. In today's society, so many people admire a Kevin Hart or a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or whoever it is, and they admire these great leaders. but then they sit on the sideline and think that it's some kind of a special skill, maybe it's only for the select few. When if you want to have a successful career and navigate your pathway of success, what would happen if the people that you consider to be successful or the people that you would consider to be great leaders, and then you extracted the person from the behaviors and you started to look at those behaviors, good speaking skills, confidence, caring about other people. And so these are the couple of characteristics that matter to me. It's customized to how I view leadership. Now, what would happen if you rated your current ability in those areas, 1 to 10, I don't care if there were 2 or 3, whatever it is, if you say, how would you rank up when it comes to those characteristic traits at current? Wherever you're at, what would happen if you started to put together a plan and a path of every 6 months, making sure you're working and becoming a little bit better on your confidence or empathy or caring for others or developing your public speaking skills? What you're now doing is you're putting yourself on a path similar to these individuals. It's not the person, it's the behaviors. Right? Think about people who, on the opposite side of it, right? When you think about people that you don't like, right? The problem that we have with liars is not the person, it's the characteristic, the fact that they lie, right? It's not, the problem I have with cheaters is not the person, it's the fact that they cheat. It's the characteristic traits. And so it's separating the person from the behaviors. And so on your journey, as you think about the skills that you're developing, it's a portable skill if you're constantly working on being better around the skills that make you a better leader, make you more successful, these things that you can take with you every step of the way. The second portable skill that I want to talk about is culture, right? How can you contribute to the culture? It's one of the things that we do within our organization because this word culture or the concern around culture in our day and age is kind of this buzzword. And if you go back, most organizations have never been constructed to truly care about the human being. Historically, in the 20th century, it was like, here's the job we have for you. I want you to do X, Y, Z, punch in, punch out. And they didn't really give a lot of consideration to the human being doing the job. In the 21st century, we have to start to reconstruct this and think about this differently. How many of you would feel really great if you were just considered another number in an organization? Nobody. Right? You want to be, I'm a person, I'm a human being. I don't work just to work. You work so you can have a life outside of work. You can enjoy life with your family or take vacations and do all these different things. But in order for that to happen, we have to care about the environment differently. We have to care about the space that you're in. If you're spending 50 to 75% of your waking hours around work, we have to look at culture differently. One of our core sayings at Think3D is a culture will emerge whether intended or not. But if it's not one that you invest in, it's one that you pay for. And we can't just look at this from, I hope my employer, whoever I choose to work for of my career, invest in the culture. You want that as a part of it, but you have to ask yourself, what can I do to contribute to that culture? And so one of the exercises we often do when we work with organizations, we do this simple exercise where we say, define out some of the characteristic traits of a toxic culture. So they think about what kind of culture do you want to stay away from, whether it's gossip or negativity or poor communication. And then we ask them on the other side of it, what is a healthy culture? What kind of environment do I want to be that's going to give me enough energy to go home with, to have fun and excitement, etc. And so it's really the analogy of every day when you walk into your place of employment, they give you this log. And you get to choose which fire you place it on. If I put it on the toxic culture, that fire is going to burn brighter. If I put it on the healthy culture, that one's going to burn brighter. And so as we think about this, how do we develop a culture? How do we develop and contribute to an environment that gives you a space to thrive, to be your best self, and do those type of things? And so 3 more quick minutes back in those same groups that you had. I want you to talk about what are some of those characteristic traits that you want to see in the organization that you're going to spend so much time around that you would want to spend the rest of your career. And so what are those key things in a work environment, whether that's good communication, whether that's positivity? Have some conversations about what are those things that you are looking for in a job, in that environment, that's going to make you want to stay for a long time. 3 minutes, have some conversations. If you're online, go ahead and write those things out as well, and go. the environment that you want to be around. So again, if you want to, what kind of things would you want in the work environment that's going to make you be healthy and thrive, that you want to stay there for a long time, whether that's good communication, positivity, what type of things do you want in your environment? 30 seconds. All right, let's bring it back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So one thing I want to implore you with is say again, as you go out there and you're finding your career. Earlier we talked about this skill of articulation, right? You have to take some time to know what it is that I want. I would challenge you to have conversations with your parents, have conversations with some of the key people in your life that you trust, and ask, what type of things have made you happy, that had given you enough energy to go home to your loved ones and go home to your kids? And as you do that, you start to define and be able to articulate what it is that you want, and then you can be very clear on the things that you don't want. The third portable skill, and this is one of the most underutilized skill that people focus on, is communication. How many of you in the room came from environments growing up that your parents taught you great communication skills? How many feel like you were given great communication skills? Very few, right? For most of us, again, I go back and look at how I was raised. My parents, again, I wouldn't say it was poor, but it was far from great. And I don't blame my parents, because I can unpack and say, where did they learn it from? My mother grew up on a farm where my grandfather was in the field most of the time, and there wasn't a lot of good conversations about developing a healthy environment. So you weren't really taught how to communicate effectively. Most people in schools, you go to school, through high school and into college, and again, there's very little that teaches you how to communicate effectively. And then you get into the workforce, and you get out there in environments, and most environments we're constructed of, here's your job, here's how to do it, but it doesn't teach you how to communicate effectively. When you think about this, and I would challenge you to think about your life, 95% of almost every issue that happens between two human beings comes down to a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. There was positive intent in there, but there was just a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but somewhere in that path, something I said or how I said it or what I didn't say hurt your feelings. And so that was a miscommunication between me and this other individual. And so along this path, if you want to develop one of the most useful skills that will make you effective no matter what you do, whatever organization you work in, it's how can I improve my communication skills? And I'm not talking about just standing up on stage, being able to public speak, etc. Again, giving consideration on the message received, because most people think just because I said something, I'm communicating. That is true, but it's not effective. Anything that I say, I already know. Anything that I'm trying to tell somebody else is already in my head. So communication is not about message sent, it's about message received. And so am I making sure that what I'm saying, how I'm communicating, that text message, that email, am I considerate of how that person is receiving that? And so if you want to develop that third portable skill that you can use that's going to be effective throughout your whole life, your whole career, what are you actively doing to develop out your communication skills? Now, as you think about this, as you step into whatever your career is, whatever these environments are, I would challenge you to go into it with a learning and a curiosity mindset, right? How could you enter into the work environment more curious and open to different things? As you step into your job, is it your role, is it your responsibility to have a broad view of the entire organization? Of course not. It's not your job, but would it be to your benefit? 100%. Learn about the history. Learn about how we got here. When you see the mission statements, you see the vision statements. If you want to accelerate your career, because everyone said, I want to be successful, and one of the keys to being successful is having the freedom. having the ability to choose the type of job you want to have, to be able to choose whether or not you get that next promotion, et cetera. And so if you go in with a curiosity mindset, be curious of how you arrived here. One thing that your generation is going to be facing as you go into the workforce with technology advancing, there's a lot of folks that are close to retirement that may not be savvy with technology or all the latest gadgets and those type of things. Don't go in with that assumption that, well, what do you know? Be curious about what they do know. How can you pass on that learning, that experience, that wisdom, etc.? But I want to give you one of the greatest pieces of career advice that I had ever gotten all time. And again, this is something that will serve you great benefit throughout your entire career. So back when I was in call centers, especially in finance, mid-2000s, there was this thought that you had to have at least a bachelor's degree in either business management, finance, to grow up, to climb the corporate ladder, if you will. And there was a gentleman who was a VP of multiple sites at Capital One at the time, and he didn't have any degree. And in my career, when I first got that first management job, I was in credit card collections. And when I was just a collector, I had the collector's mentality was I want to be more successful than just the next person because that increased my bonus. I was making about $2,000, $3,000 bonuses because that was my mentality. It was all about me and beating my competition, which was everyone else around me. When I got into my first leadership role, I took that same mentality. Team Dicehart was going to be #1 or top 3 every single month. And there was 3 different sites that was in my queue, if you would. And my team was top 3 in the nation every single month. There's about 15 to 17 teams. So I'm consistently a high-performing team. We're doing extremely well. But the problem was our site, Sioux Falls, was #3 out of the 3 sites. And so even though I was doing great, our site wasn't doing great. And so as I was looking at how do I get to that next level of my career, this gentleman by the name of Rick Zinda, I asked him when he came to our site, I said, can I get 30 minutes with you? Because he didn't have a college degree, and yet here he was at these upper echelons. And I said, how'd you do it? How did you get there beating this stigma that you have to have a degree to get there? And he gave me this one-sentence line that has served true throughout my entire career. He said, always act in the next role. So what he meant by that was when he was a frontline collector, he thought about, okay, if I was the supervisor, if I was a manager, what would I be thinking about? What am I concerned about? How do I help this team win if I was a manager? And so he started to do things to help his manager to think about it differently. And so when it came time for promotion, he was already acting and showing he had that skill set. And it was perfect timing for me because, again, at this point, I'm a top 3 team in the nation, but our site was last out of the 3 sites. And so I asked myself, okay, why are we last? And I started to look at the numbers. And so I took it upon myself to get my other 3 peers in a room. And I said, okay, here's what I'm seeing. What are you guys seeing? And we started to collaborate, and we started to develop things together. 3 or 4 months later, we became the #1 site collectively, and my boss was taking notice. He was seeing that I was setting up these meetings. He was seeing that I was pulling people together, and I was collaborating. And I had a vision beyond just my team, and I was thinking about that next level. So when it came time for an opportunity for a promotion, at this time, I only had about 1.5 years of experience as a management role. Right? A lot of people often get scared by people who have more tenure or more experience. I was about 1.5 years into my job, and everybody else I was going against had over 5 years experience as a manager. And so again, just by tenure or experience, I was by far the youngest of all of them or the least amount of experience. But when it came time for promotion, I'm the person who got it. Why? Because they had no question about it that I could do the role. I was already thinking in that manner. And then time went along. Again, I got in that role, and I said, okay, if I was at the next level, how do I start to think about these things? And by having that mindset, my actually next 3 promotions happened without an interview. I didn't even know that my manager was interviewing me. We were just having a conversation. He's like, how do you like your interview? And I'm like, I didn't know this was an interview, but he said, you've been doing this role. And so when you step into your career, don't just do the job. Step back, analyze, and say, how can we do this better? If I was the VP or the president, what would I be concerned about? And so if you want to add value, if you want to have a successful career, again, success defined by whatever your definition of success is, take some time, get acclimated, get curious, find out how you got there. But once you get your bearings under you, start to think beyond your role. We call it thinking past your chair. Think about what would it be like to be your supervisor. And when you can show value in that scope, in that space, you become exponentially more valuable. But one more exercise I want to do real quick, and then I'll get into a couple of keys to success, if you would. But earlier, we had some high school students up here, and I was extremely impressed, right? I asked them to come on stage. We did a mini podcast, if you would. But we talked about the skill of articulation. And so when you learn to articulate who you are, what value you bring to the table, it gives you a different position in the marketplace. And so this whole event is Talent Draft Day. And you should really start to think about it in that manner. Think about an NFL draft or NBA draft, right? They do all these assessments of their skills because they say, man, I need this kind of skill on my team. So as you think about where you're currently at, beyond what you want to do for a career, whether that's veterinarian, doctor, teacher, lawyer, whatever it is, what value do you currently have that you would bring to an organization that they should be happy to have you? So let's take about 3 minutes back in those same groups, have some conversation. What value do you bring to an organization that you would work for that would give you the space to be successful in that job? 3 minutes, what value do you bring to the table? And go. 30 seconds. All right, let's bring it back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So what challenge you with that is saying whatever your value is, know your worth. Know your worth. Again, we are in this environment where you see so many job openings all over the place. In Sioux Falls, we have a 2-point-some% unemployment rate. And so it's just not about finding a job or finding a career. Know what value you bring to the organization. Know that you have worth beyond just what you do for a living. Develop that out. Learn to articulate those things that you bring to an organization. When you go in for your interview, talk about those things. Talk about, here's what I'm going to bring beyond the technical skills of my job. And so before I leave you guys, and we're going to play a quick game here in a second, I want to give you 2 keys of success. Everyone said they wanted to be successful. I'm going to give you 2 keys. These aren't the only keys, but these are 2 very important keys if you want to be successful. I love reading biographies because it tells a story, right? We admire the person once they're on the podium, but we don't look back at all the discipline and the sacrifice they made along the way. And so there's a lot of value in finding out how you get to these places, quote unquote, as you define success. The first thing I want to ask you guys, how many of you in the room feel like you have a personal custom definition of what success means to you? Who knows what success is to them? Show of hands, anybody? Maybe a couple of you. I've been asking this question all year. And now what I'm finding is only about maybe 10% of people have their own definition of success. The beautiful part about the question is, it's not my success. It's not someone else's success. It's not your best friend's success. What does success mean to you? Because I asked that first question, we had this full room. Everybody said, I want to be successful. Okay, well, if you don't know what it looks like for you, will you ever be successful? And if you don't have your own definition, what happens then is we often default to what the world says success is. And what does the world define as success? What do you guys think? Money, power, fame, right? That's the world's definition of success, but we all know, is that success by itself? No, you can go home tonight, watch E! News, and you can see celebrities who have money, power, and fame who are miserable, who are on drugs or various things because they're living somebody else's definition of success. And so step one, I would challenge you all to wrestle with that. What is your personal definition of success? I can go back and unpack my childhood. So I grew up, my sister played club soccer here in town. So our vacations was to Apple Valley, Minnesota, or Omaha, Nebraska, right? Just a couple hour road trips here and there. And so my level of thinking, I didn't know what success was, but I had a very limited thinking because that was the only thing I was really exposed to. And as I was telling you earlier, when I got into credit card collections and started winning these free trips, I got to see the Virgin Islands, I got to see Jamaica, I got to see all these different places. I was on a plane for the first time, got to see the ocean for the first time, and that started to expand what success was to me. And so now I'm at an age where success partially for me is actually, one of my definitions of success is I want to work between traveling. I love to travel. Every month between September and May, I want to be going somewhere. That's my definition of success. And so as I think about that, and I have a definition, not just traveling, but all of the things that go along with it, now when I talk about the people that I'm around, when I think about my career, part of why I started my own business, when I think about the impact that I want to have in the world, it's not just money, it's the impact. It's being able to talk to individuals from every walk of life to say, every one of us has higher potential. But the starting point to that is, what is your vision for success? Amongst all the things that you guys are learning, spend some time wrestling with it. Say, what is it to me? How do I define success? Because if you don't know what it is for you, you're never going to step into that. How many of you, show of hands, out of all the hundreds of people that you know, think about all the hundreds of people that you know, how many have at least 5 or more people that you know personally that you feel is living their best life? Few of you, a handful or so. And my question, one of my favorite questions is, why not, right? Why not is a curiosity question. Why aren't we living our best life? Not somebody else's, not have to have $1 million, but however you define that, have a vision of what your best life is. And so when you think about your career, the things that you do for a living, make sure it's coupled with your definition of success. Have a vision. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And so that's one of the things that I often say is, see it, speak it, believe it, and then act as if, be it. Everything that you ever see, whether it's a camera, whether that's this monitor, whether that's a speaker, these chairs, the clothes that you have on, where was the first place that it ever existed? Man's pointing right there, in your mind. Where you see it. If, again, someone thought about a cell phone, they saw it here first. Someone thought about the design of your t-shirt. The last time you got it, when you had your haircut, before you could tell someone you wanted that haircut, you had to see it in your mind. And so again, vision is so important in this process. As you navigate your career, you have to be able to see it first. The second key of this is confidence. Confidence. Have you ever met a successful person, or think about anyone you would call a success, that wasn't confident? Now, not confident in everything, but just there was a level of confidence about them, right? Mother Teresa was confident in what she did. She didn't have money, but she had impact, and she was confident in what she could do. I think it's a Nike commercial, I love it, that shows professional athletes playing sports in a different arena, right? Maybe a tennis player playing basketball, and they suck at it, right? The point of that is you may be great at one thing, and so how you build your confidence, what is your thing? What are you really good at? It's not about just working on your weaknesses, because again, a lot of the world will say work on your weaknesses. Make sure your weaknesses aren't a limitation to you, but double down on what you're good at. One of my favorite players, Kobe Bryant, he spent an absorbent amount of time practicing all the aspects of his game. He was confident when he left basketball because he built confidence up in basketball. He was confident that he could step into filmmaking and other adventures and all the other type of things. LeBron James is another one who plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, the greatest basketball franchise of all time. He's confident in other areas because he built up confidence. He started in basketball. So as you navigate forward, you navigate your path, your keys to success, what are you going to build your confidence upon? This is one, I can't, if I had more time, I wish I could go deeper on this one, but one of the number one reasons that we see gaps in society, we see that most people aren't living their best life. We don't see enough people pursuing happiness, which again is in our own Declaration of Independence. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why most people fall short of pursuing happiness is they lack confidence to some degree that it's possible. They don't see most people around them truly living their best life. Excuse me. They don't see people around them to show them examples. And so as you navigate your career, don't just do a career. Ask yourself, how am I building out my life, my success, my happiness? Because again, at the end of the day, you can have $10 million, you could have traveled the world, but if you don't have happiness in there, if you don't have joy in there, if you don't have impact in there, you're gonna find yourself empty to some degree, because those things have to be tethered together. And so I'll just leave you guys with this as we're about to play a quick game here. Anyone want to win some prizes? Anybody? A few of you, all right. We're going to play a game here in a second. But as you think about these things, there was an interesting study that I read recently around goal setting and those type of things. Most of the year, or most people have stopped setting goals, New Year's resolutions, stopped setting goals because they don't end up hitting them. They don't actually follow through. Well, there's studies that show if you set out to hit a goal, if just by saying you want to hit a goal, only about 4% of people actually follow through on those goals. If you just speak it out loud, here's what I want to accomplish, here's the things that I want to do in my life. If you write down your goals, right? So write out what you want. If you write down your goals and then write down detailed plans of how you're going to accomplish your goals, you now have a 44% chance of hitting your goals. Tenfold. If I could offer, everyone said, I want to be successful. I could say, I can show you how you're going to be 10 times more likely to be successful. However you define success, have a goal, write it out, and make the details of how you're going to accomplish those things. That's going to set you up on a path of success. And so as you wrestle with those things, as you noodle those things, make sure you're developing out your leadership skills. Make sure that you're developing out what kind of culture you want to step into. Develop out your communication skills, build your confidence, and have a vision of what your best life looks like. It's not somebody else's, but your best life. And so all the people online, all you in here, I thank you guys for the time, and we're gonna have some fun with some games here in a second. You guys ready for that?